It's really important to think in decades. Bitcoin is the best monetary asset in the world. It will go on to absorb the monetary premium of everything around it. I find there's three people in the world. There's the Decels, the zombies, and the Accels. That's it. Fortune favors the bold, and you're way more likely. The chance of you succeeding is way more likely. Is not zero. It's definitely zero for the person that doesn't get out there and have a crack. Just learn, move, create. It's the only thing that's going to be rewarding.
Hey everyone, welcome to the new episode of Stacked. We are here with JP, who's definitely very stacked. Very exciting to have you here, JP. You have Tushar and myself as your host today. We'll talk about everything, Thorchain, your journey, obviously very interesting things. You coming out as Lena, which is the the most interesting thing to me. I was very surprised by that, but I was hoping for Lena to be a beautiful young lady. Turned out to be you, but I think
All
people are
right.
still very happy about it. So yeah, very happy to have you here. We'll talk about everything around Thorchain, Bitcoin, your belief in the ecosystem, your belief in crypto, your journey so far, and your war against Decels. So yeah, let's get right into it.
Yeah, sure. So I got into Bitcoin in 2013. I went to a meetup and I saw it and I thought, hey, this is going to change the world. So I went home, bought a bunch of Bitcoin, researched it, told my family and friends to buy it. And then MT Gox hack happened and Bitcoin crashed and blah, blah, blah. Lost my Bitcoin on BTC because it got seized by the FBI. But then in 2015, 16, it started bouncing back. And I said, I revisited my thesis and it was all still correct. It was all still presented to me as, Bitcoin being a new store of value of time across time and space. So it can store your value across time really well because it's got scarcity properties, and it can store your value across space really well because it's connected to a global distributed network and can be transmitted through a fiber optic cable. Yada yada. So that thesis was still valid. So I jumped straight back in. I started exploring the Ethereum network. Went to a hackathon, won it, and they got bombarded with a whole bunch of people saying, "Hey, let's launch ICOs, let's launch projects," because I'd also learned the Ethereum Solidity smart contract language quite quickly, and it was demonstrated a good understanding of how to apply it. I did a whole bunch of ideas in 2017, pursued a whole bunch of things. I tried a decentralized marketplace, allowing people to buy and sell their services using like a decentralized escrow, but it was too early for it. The market wasn't ready. I actually learned that the market much prefer to speculate on tokens and currencies. And that led me down the path of liquidity. And I realized that liquidity was terrible. It was all locked in centralized exchanges. I'd participated in the Banker ICO, and it was just disappointing with the implementation. I was involved with Kaiba, AirSwap, and I could see everyone trying to solve the problem, but not no one really solving it. So I thought, hey, what if you could solve the problem? What would it look like? And it would be decentralized cross-chain liquidity. So liquidity pools for Bitcoin, ETH, Litecoin, Dogecoin on a like a state machine that would connect them all up together. I started poking around, raised a team, wrote a white paper. But it was in 2018, Ethereum was crashing. There was a giant CDP on MakerDAO at the time that was almost about to implode, and it was just wild. So I had to put the project on pause. And in 2019, I discovered this white paper written by some very smart researchers called GG18, and it was MPC, multi-party computation, which was TSS. And TSS, it was implemented by both Binance. No, it was implemented by the Zengo team, which run the Zengo wallet in Rust. And we decided to grab that library, which is open source, and jam it together with Cosmos SDK, which is a really good state machine program. And we decided to bolt it onto Binance Chain, and we launched single chain ChaosNet, launched the token, and got cracking. We ran testnet for a year, and during that time, we learned how the machine worked. We didn't know how it would work. We actually called it single chain chaosnet, as in expect chaos. We just want to get out there, get in the arena, and see what craziness we have to solve. At the same time, the markets were going crazy. Then we turned around and launched multi-chain chaosnet, which hooks it up to Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum, and got it working. But again, we called it chaosnet. It was not like a testnet where it's like the funds aren't real, and it's not a mainnet where it's like real funds and it's all okay. It was like this intermediate where it's put a little bit of money in, see if it works, but expect chaos. And in chaos, the protocol got hacked on one very specific part of the protocol, being the Ethereum router, which we had in place just to do Ethereum swaps. And but we survived, and we kept tight to our principles, which was iterate fast, Be honest and truthful about the protocol. Build first. Don't worry about influencers, marketing, chilling, conferences, all that nonsense. Just build a great product. Build a great product that works. Because the whole time we're like, nah, surely it's not going to work. Surely there's too many problems we have to solve. But those problems just came on like a train. One problem, solve it. Next problem, solve it. Next problem, solve it. And I just was able to assemble a killer team. There's probably like 5 people in the world at the time that if they didn't get in the same room together and solve those hardcore problems, Thorchain wouldn't exist. So incredibly grateful to those 5 people for helping ship this. Because looking now, the ecosystem's huge, right? There's 62 apps, there's
Yeah.
4 protocols, there's so many interfaces. You can't stop this protocol. As part of it, the whole time I was this kind of avatar. There's dev in the Discord called Lena. Funny story. Pretended she was a chick, and I maintained that personality for 6 years. And I did it to kind of like just focus on the project, to protect the project from building like my own personality, and to like focus all my energy through because I was like the intern behind the Thorchain Twitter account. So I grew that from 0 followers to almost 250,000 followers in 6 years, and just focus my energy through that and not worry about my own personal brand or whatever. And I always promised myself that it wasn't really helpful to let just Lena slide away into the darkness, and that I would, once the protocol was truly decentralized and handed over to the community, that I would step out of the shadows and reveal myself. And I decided that finally that was the moment was this year when most of the treasure had been handed over. The giant amounts of rune had been burnt off the 60 million rune. And most of the core regional team had exit stage left as they should, because the only way that the world can verify that the protocol is decentralized and running by itself is if the entire regional team disappear and leave. And so Lena was like the final act of planned obsolescence, where I would pop out and say, "Hey, it's me, and it's all good. I'm finished. I'm out, and the protocol works." So that's happened. So did you get all that? Hopefully you did.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously, the first question, or based on that, is just around, like, why not just kill Lena as well, like you say, and become, truly decentralized. Why, come out and be like, now you're going to be public. Obviously, you're working quite a bit on your personal brand. Why do that now? Is that because you think it'll benefit the project more, or is that because you just feel that you can contribute more by being public? I mean, what was the rationale and the motivation for being public now, as opposed to letting
Yeah.
Thorchain
So
run
I,
on
I
its own?
recognize absolutely. I recognize that these decentralized protocols have one big problem, and that is leadership and direction and adherence to a vision, and someone to beat the drum and campaign for the correct principles. And so I had built up a bit of rapport in the community around this Lena avatar, and I decided to kind of morph that into this new direction, which is to show that the protocol, anyone can campaign the protocol in a certain direction, and my job is to campaign node operators, developers, community developers now with memes and data and a vision over the next 5 years. And I'm just trying, and ultimately, I myself will leave probably in 5 years. That's my commitment. That and go and build crazy things like launch system space and maybe rockets and space brains and some other crazy stuff, because that's my mission, is to help advance humanity on its progression of intelligence. But I want to show that when I finally leave, that all you've got to do to actually help Thorchain achieve the next rung of progress is to one uh, establish through your own credibility and persistence in doing the same thing, so doing what you say you will do over and over again. And there's plenty of examples of that already in the Thorchain community. And just present yourself with memes and data and energy and a clear vision that projects longer than 2 months, maybe like at least 2 years, and back it up with intelligence and direction and coherence, then anyone can direct the future of Thorchain. So that's what I'm trying to do right now. I'm trying to demonstrate that it's easy to actually get out there with a bit of energy and passion and vision and move a protocol forward, not necessarily be a leader. And I don't call myself a leader. I call myself like, a meme lord, or, a chief energy officer. Which, what is that? It's just someone that's kind of project a vision and solve the core problem, which is in these protocols. Because there's so much infighting, there's so many like backstabbing and disagreement and vision. And I'm just trying to provide like a focused direction, and which is the next phase of growth to Thorchain, to show that it's actually decentralized, but it can actually achieve a roadmap through cohesion.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. I do see most projects don't work out well because of that lack of leadership, right? Unless there's a leader who has a vision people want to follow, right? They don't know where to go. If shown the right direction, they definitely get excited about the vision, and they follow you. And so I think that definitely makes sense. And I do think you come from a leadership background, right? I think you were in the Australian military for what, 12 years, if I'm not wrong. So
Yeah, yeah.
so
So
that
before this,
definitely
I was in the Royal Air Force for almost 12 years. I flew fighters and bombers as a captain. So I do come from a leadership background, but anyone can think like a leader and decide to get out in the arena and project a forward vision. So that's where it is. And I'm just trying to energize and activate people. And that gives me to my next point, which is I'm trying to set myself up for the next 10, 15 years of this direction, which is activation, right? To show people that, to get out in the arena, to learn, to build in public, to move around, explore your environment, to cross frontiers, to just expose yourself to different stimulus around the world, then you can create things from zero. And that's the most satisfying of it all, to be able to, like, from literally a vision, a dream, an idea you have, and then you can morph it into reality, like a hardcore product, a software product, a protocol, a community, an ecosystem. Anyone can do that, because I think humanity's at a crossroads right now where, coming out of COVID, where we were decelerated, we basically slowed down, and most of humanity is being right in front of your eyes zombified. They're basically getting sucked into these infinite content machines, just, like a consumption death spiral. Not actually really confused about their purpose and what they're trying to do in life, and what should they be doing and what should they be focusing on. What we should be focusing on is progressing humanity forward and projecting intelligence through the universe as an expression of our agency, and a manifestation of our intelligence, which is basically the sum of all our mimetic and genetic repositories. And so that's what we should be doing each day. But so many of us are stuck in these like do loops where we don't know what we're trying to do and how we're trying to do it. So I'm just out there for the next 10, 15 years, just kind of activate, build, show people how to do it, and show people actually it's quite achievable once you set yourself on an energetic pipeline. So I'm playing a couple of things here. One is I'm trying to give Thorchain good momentum for the next 5 years. Then I'm trying to give myself really good momentum for the next 10, 15 years. And it's really important to think in decades. Back in 2013, when I saw Bitcoin first, I was telling my family and friends to think 10 years, like buy some Bitcoin now, and in 10 years, it's going to be okay. So I always had a decade long vision for what I was surrounding myself in. Before that, even when I was like 15, 16, I signed up for like, a 12-year obligation with the Air Force. So then I was thinking 10 years that, I was going to be an engineer, fighter pilot, test pilot, and then potentially astronaut, because I was always wanted to like progress along that pathway. I got to fighter pilot stage, and then I just got really disillusioned with the organization because I was actually just a pawn on someone else's chessboard and didn't have any room for creativity and imagination. So that's when I kind of, all right, this is not the pathway for me. I want to exit sideways into crypto and being able to build something from scratch. Anyway, but always think in long horizons, 10 years plus, and give yourself something really big to aim for. So that's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah. So JP, just to jump on. So I think, I mean, sounds to me like you think in terms of first principles, and I kind of relate to that as well because I think I try to do the same. I'm just curious if you had certain individuals or like how did you come to these conclusions? Obviously, I've had my own journey and my own unique life experiences that led me to have those thought processes and those first principles, but just trying to understand, you know because sounds like you've had these principles over a period of time. How did you arrive at these principles, and which facilitate your decision making today?
It's a really good question. A lot of people actually ask me this question: who inspires me, or who's my mentor? And I don't really have a really good answer for that. I mean, I came from a family of 10. I was homeschooled, self-taught from, grade 6 onwards, because my mum couldn't teach me math. So she just gave me like math books and said, hey, as soon as you finish the math book, you can go on to the next one, which is like the next year. So I'll just like eat math books for breakfast, because I saw it all as a giant game where like you finish one level and you go to the next. So I knew that school was 12 levels, and I was third, and I could see my older brother and older sister on the next year ahead of me of math. So I realized, hey, as soon as I finish all these maths books, get to 12, then I'm finished and I get on with life. So I've always treated life as just learn as fast as you can and get out there as quickly as possible. So, and that kind of, I was just trying to understand the universe as much as possible. I remember when I was like 11, 12 years old reading books about chaos theory and stuff like that, just trying to figure out this damn thing called the universe as early as possible. So it's just this curiosity of like, what's next? What? It's just explain this, like, and I think that's just the way I think. But I actually believe everyone can think like this if you just start asking yourself the question, why does that exist, and then just keep asking the why and being innately curious. And then you will arrive at the first principles yourself. You will figure it out why something exists. So just start asking yourself why, and if you don't know the answer, go find it.
Interesting, interesting. You talk about, I want to double click on this point that you said. You want to give 5 years to Thorchain, and then you want to go on a journey of your own. What would you want to achieve in those 5 years for Thorchain? What would you say? Okay, you've achieved what you set out to achieve with Thorchain, right?
I want Thorchain to be bigger than centralized exchanges in the next 5 years. So I've kind of said 5 years because it's this cycle and then next cycle. So 2029. 2029 is probably going to be the next top
Yeah.
in the next top. If that makes sense. And I think 100 billion is possible in the next 5 years. And Thorchain will achieve that if it's able to vacuum up as much liquidity as possible, secure that liquidity, not suffer any fund loss events, and monetize it through swaps as much as possible. And the market has already shown the idea that it can entertain $100 billion exchanges because that's the value of Binance and Coinbase from the
Yeah.
2021 cycle. So for a decentralized exchange to get to those valuations is entirely reasonable, in my opinion. It just needs to reach centralized exchange feature parity and convincingly in a decentralized theater. And that's Thorchain. It has all that. It just needs one or two little things more. That is a much one more feature in regards to liquidity, which is rune pool. It's like one click staking for click pooling. So we've already delivered one click L1 savers. Now we just need to deliver the other side, which is one click rune savers. And once we have that, TVL should flow in nicely. And then that should shift the incentive pendulum back to nodes, causing them to start buying up Rune and being competitive on the bond side. So that will set a virtuous cycle of features and be able to scale both swaps, savers, and lending features safely all the way up to 100 billion in the next cycle. So that would, when we get to end 2029, Thorchain is 100 billion plus. It's working. It's true. It's got 150 nodes. I would say, hey, it's now forever locked in. I think there's not going to be a room for one. I think there's going to be like 3 or 4 different protocols. I've always been about creating an ecosystem that's very difficult to shut down. So we're part of the origin story of Chainflip, Maya, and now in Sarai. We support them. We push them. We want them to survive and exist because the more spread out and horizontal an ecosystem is, the harder it is to shut down. I don't believe in competition because collaboration is much more effective because then you can just focus outwards and not worry about like my protocol is better than your protocol nonsense. And there's also cross pollination between developers and users and mindshare and doc and education. So it all works. So an ecosystem is much better than just a vertically integrated protocol, which is it's just silly. So yeah, the whole ecosystem could be worth 100 billion, and Thorchain could be worth 80% of that, which I'd be happy. Even if Thorchain was a 60% of that, I'd be happy.
I think that makes sense. And just to maybe think about this, most of this is going to happen through BTC, right? You are obviously a Bitcoin maxi. I can maybe not maxi, maybe not be the right word, but you obviously believe in Bitcoin. You believe in the values that Bitcoin offers, and I think like to reach 100 billion in volumes, you definitely have to rely on Bitcoin in a big way. So like, what are your thoughts on the direction which BTC is moving, and general thoughts on Bitcoin lately?
Yeah, so Bitcoin is the best store of value across time and space. So put simply, it has, because of its scarcity properties, it has unforgeable costness, has high monetary integrity over the next 120 years. It's basically globally distributed. You can't forge it. It has really good scarcity properties. So as a result, it stores value, and value is just purely time multiplied effort, which is the only scarce assets you really have. And you convert that into value, and that value allows you to buy someone else's time and effort some time or space later. And Bitcoin does it really well across time. and it also does it really well across space, as in like if you convert your time and effort into USD in Dubai and you fly to San Francisco, you can buy a coffee and with the same unit of currency. So Bitcoin also does that really well because it's globally connected to everyone in the world, and yeah, it can be transmitted at the speed of light, it can infinitely divisible. So it's the best monetary asset, and it will go on to absorb the monetary premium of everything around it. Uh, honestly think in the next 10, 20, 30 years, it could be worth 100 trillion plus. Everything else kind of loses monetary premium to Bitcoin. Bitcoin fundamentally is a really good measure of value because it it measures the delta change in entropy, and everything in the universe is practically infinite except for entropy. Entropy always expands, and Bitcoin is this really good measure of entropy expansion. Whereas, because it literally just takes energy at some entropy level and converts it to a high entropy value. That's all it does. When like you feed it power and it churns through hashing, which does really, not it's not really doing anything other than counting entropy, and then it exhausts it as waste heat. So what did it do? It just counted entropy and it locked that in as a rule or a value. Whereas the United States dollars cannot do that because it's artificially inflated. Presidents can make phone calls and blah blah blah. So it's not a very reliable ruler, and it's certainly not a very good measure of entropy change, whereas Bitcoin is. Anyway, so getting back to Bitcoin is the best monetary asset in the world. However, it's not. There's way more room for that. We still need to rebuild our entire financial system and all the various financial contracts across a base layer. Bitcoin doesn't, by design, cannot do that. Maybe Bitcoin L2 can, but Bitcoin L2s are somewhat centralized in various ways. So that's why we have the necessity for, Ethereum, which is like a modular blockchain, and or Solana, which is a monolithic blockchain, or Telegram, Ton, and these protocols will literally just be um, stablecoin settlement layers in the long term. Stablecoins provide this kind of transitionary period between where we go from legacy closed source manipulated money into just tokenized US treasuries, as the whole world and all its various little currencies hyperinflate, and all that value will flow into this intermediate period, which is US treasuries. And so all those US treasuries will be tokenized onto these blockchains, and they will do everything like Ethereum, Solana. And so it'll just be this giant competition for block space, which Bitcoin can't provide, by the way, because Bitcoin is providing the unit value beyond stablecoins, US treasuries. So this so these chains are going to provide really good value add in the next 10, 20 years, whereas they serve as settlement layer for US treasuries, tokenized US treasuries, which we're seeing in the place. And but then because you don't know which blockchain design is going to do it, or if it could be Pareto, it might not be Pareto, who knows? But it's just this giant sloshing churn of narrative. Is it monolithic? Is it modular? Is it centralized L2? Blah blah blah. So, but what is constant the whole time is this swapping layer between all these chains. So hence Thorchain. So you need to be able to swap between Ethereum, Solana, Bitcoin, or whatever, which basically like US Treasuries and settlement layers, US Treasuries, and finally Bitcoin, which is like the step change in ruler of entropy change. So that's Thorchain, and so that's the only constant here is a settlement layer between all these blockchains, tokenized US Treasuries, and Bitcoin itself. And so that's why DeFi is so important, and it's going to be a big thing for the next few decades. And in fact, Thorchain could be around longer than some of these settlement layers. Like they could just blow up and die because they were the wrong design. But Thorchain will still be there because Thorchain still provides a valuable use case. Anyway, so that's my overall thesis. In fact, that's the thesis of my fund I just launched. Is you got majority Bitcoin, which is going to be around for longest, and then you've got these kind of L1s, which are the settlement layers for US Treasuries, and then you got DeFi, which is servicing all the conduit value between it all. So, I mean, it's a pretty simple thesis, I think, but it's the correct one.
You've got your hands in multiple places. Obviously, you mentioned the fund. There's Thorchain. Do you want to give a quick roundup on everything where you're contributing, or that you're pushing, or helping to incubate, or helping to give the vision for?
Yeah, so I'm just accelerating. Do more, and you'll do more. So, I mean, I've launched the
Hmm.
fund, about to launch potentially two more funds, one in Singapore and one overseas. Because I'm a big believer in just I mean, I've been around the space long enough. I know what to do and what not to do. So I actually think now that if people give me money, I will do a much better job of managing it than they will, especially in crypto. And it's just that's the thesis of my fund. I'll just take people's money that don't know what they're doing and just put it in a direction that makes sense, and I'll do exactly what I say I'll do, and I'll give back to them sometime later with on a gain. So that's the premise of my funds. I have a pretty good uh, conviction. I've built some pretty good thesis over the time. I'm also pushing projects that I can get deep in the weeds. So I'm big in the Thorchain ecosystem. I'm pushing some projects. I'm passionate about crypto on-off rails. Thor Wallet out of Switzerland have built some really good on-off rails. So I see that as kind of like this onboarding platform for the Thorchain ecosystem. So supporting there. Passionate about wallets. So I see so many people lose money on single signature wallets and setting up a fund. You go through the whole multi-sig nonsense, and multi-sig is just terrible at the moment. So building Thorchain through threshold signatures, I know the power of threshold signatures. So we've built this kind of retail threshold signature vault. So you need like at least two devices. It's basically a multi-chain, multi-asset crypto vault with two-factor auth. So you need like at least a MacBook, an iPhone, or an Android phone, and like a web app and a password. So it's just like distributed self custody with two-factor auth, and but no single signatures, no seed phrases or any of that nonsense, and launched that multi-sig over the next 12 months with like the 6 year airdrop, and I hope to make it as the gold standard of wallets over the next few years. But we've got another project involving like this NFT honeypot game. I love this kind of hot PvP play where people compete, but I hate this kind of NFT grifting rug pulls where the devs just walk away with everything and NFTs go to zero because there's no kind of like thought to long term value accrual. So I'm launching this game with some devs that's redesigning the whole NFT game and like reinvigorating it in the correct direction. It's like this PvP honeypot game where most of the game's income goes back to the players. I just made a large investment, about $1 million, into a protocol called Bolt, which has access to millions of users, digital young users, particularly in the gaming area, because I want to connect with more people and form a relationship with them to reactivate them on the next 5 years and connect through content. So working with a founder in Singapore called Crystal Quirk on that, super bullish on that. It's actually an L2, so it performs an L2 base a fork of optimism for this kind of content creation machine, which I'm very passionate about. Yeah, I got a few bunch of other things to do. In 2 years, I'm flying my helicopter plus another one around the world to demonstrate agency and this connection of man, machine, and being able to get out and explore. And so flying from Australia, Mount Everest, North Pole, around South Pole, back up again. So we're doing a whole bunch of filming at the moment here in New Zealand. I got the machine down here. I've had the machine for about a year. I flew back from England to Australia uh, whilst I was hacking away as Lena in the Discord, flying the chopper from Australia to England to Australia. So that's super cool. Love flying. I love exploring. And at the same time, we're launching this kind of brand called Accel, which is short for Accelerate. And accelerationism is this idea that humanity is primarily responsible for progression and projecting our intelligence, and that we represent this billion years of genetic evolution, which has given birth to an advanced genetic repository, which basically a set of instructions of how to walk, talk, eat, sleep, and survive the adversities of the universe. But also, humans are really good at expressing and passing on non-genetic instructions for surviving the universe through memes. And memes aren't just what you post on Twitter. It's memes is everything around you that is non-genetic. It like contains instructions for building. Everything on Wikipedia is a meme. All of religion is a potent meme. That the instructions for building a helicopter is a meme. Like they are written down. They are written in our textbooks. They're on our internet. Everything around you that's we express ourselves is a meme, and it's, by the way, it's a very vulnerable memetic repository. Like a large coronal mass injection that lasts for like longer than 7 days could shut down an entire energy grids, and our memetic repository would implode. And if you woke up after 7 days of coronal mass injections and the grid was down and all the shopping centers were pillaged, what would 90% of humanity even survive? Because we have to go back to substance farming. We have to relearn how to build iPhones, let alone bloody rockets. So like we have to get our memetic repository backed up out of here as quickly as possible. So really the crucial question is mass to orbit. And over the next 10 years, I want to have a crack at shooting things into space via giant core gun through Mount Everest, about 80 kilometers long, 0 to Mach 20 in about 20 seconds. 32G, hit the atmosphere at 25,000 plus feet, get into low Earth orbit, and away we go. And it's giant core gun because it's highly reusable, so you don't need a stage one of huge amount of fuel. So you don't really I don't really subscribe to the rocket equation where the rocket has to lift 99% of its own weight in fuel, so it needs all this fuel to carry the fuel. I think stage one should be on the ground as a giant core gun shooting payloads in space. And then you ask, what are those payloads? And those payloads should be internet satellites broadcasting internet around the world, because the most important thing is connection as fast as possible. Bots talking to bots, bots talking to humans, humans talking to bots. More bots, more humans is what we need. But ultimately, I think we should stick our brains in pods, because if the only way we can actually maximize our bandwidth to the machines is by thinking faster to them. And by the way, our skeleton's the biggest drag. Although our skeleton's pretty cool, allows us to get around environment. It is not suitable for where we're going with the bots. We need to basically, and the only way we can live beyond 90 years to 100 and 200 years old is actually get our brains outside of our very, fragile bodies, stick them in pods, feed them the right amount of glucose, sugar, and this kind of gold-plated pod that keeps us away from the ionizing radiation. Shoot us in space, unfill our solar panels, get infinite energy, and then zoom around, delegating agency to bots all over the universe. And then we can think way faster. We don't know the limit with the human brain. If we shed our skeleton, we can unlock all this bandwidth. We can remap our spinal cord onto like sensors and look, far further into the EMF spectrum and far further into space. And really, well, everything we observe about space allows us to contribute back to our own mimetic repositories. So we'll actually become more intelligent and think faster and do more things. So I think that's something we should aim for.
Well, that's a lot. That's a lot to unpack. But no, I think it's definitely. I can see the passion coming out of you when you talk about this. It's beautiful. It's amazing.
It's time to build.
No, yeah, it's definitely time to build, and I see you want to build for something so much greater than just crypto, right? So obviously, crypto is a big part of what you want to do, but I can see the vision behind what you really want to achieve, and it's quite fascinating, to be honest. I think yeah, not a lot of people have those ambitions, right, to aim for things that you are aiming for. So it definitely is quite unique to be speaking about these things with you here. I think actually, I saw this thing when you were talking. I think this was on your LinkedIn, something you said: technology optimism and appetite for risk can solve any problem facing humanity. Uh, this is quite a nice thing that I read, which is what I can see here. Technology is a means to what you want to achieve, and with that optimism and appetite for risk, you can literally solve for any problems facing humanity. So I can see the war against Decels going on here, and your accelerationism,
So, yeah, I mean,
in
there's three.
action.
I find there's three people in the world. There's the D cells, the zombies, and the A cells. That's it. The D cells have full control of the zombies. They just feed them content, fear, propaganda to control. Because the D cells are afraid of losing what they think they have, which is things. Is it power, money, statue, or whatever? And because they're afraid of losing it, they want to control. And then they control the people that they think are going to take it from them, which is the masses, the zombies. The zombies don't even know what they're doing. They're just in the herd. They could be activated in either direction, but they're just fed fear and for control, and they don't have a good understanding of the universe. They don't have a good understanding of themselves, let alone their purpose. And then you got a small bunch of people, the A cells, who want to accelerate progression, and they find the D cells extremely annoying because the D cells are always trying to control them with fear, but they're mostly immune to that fear. They just find them annoying because they get tied up in bandwidth, regulation and other nonsense like that. But the A cells are trying to like accelerate humanity and trying to activate the zombies. And the zombies are just being, they could be A cells, but they're just, they can't even help themselves. So they just need to be activation. So there's a whole battle going on, and it's not left versus right or red versus blue and that nonsense. It's just literally people who are pro humanity trying to accelerate it, and people who are anti humanity trying to decelerate it out of their own fear. So the ACELs believe in, everyone has the same potential to accelerate humanity. Like all about like our biological compute was within a factor of 10 of each other. An ability to connect to this giant memotic repository being the internet and all that information is more or less the same for everyone now with Starlink and the internet. Anyone in the world, you could be an Indonesian fisherman or up in the mountains of the Italian Alps. Doesn't matter. You can still access internet. I've traveled all over the world, and everywhere I go in the world, I can still access the internet. It's all there, and now I can use ChatGPT to convert, translate anything I don't understand or help feed it to me. So there's no excuse anymore. Anyone has ability to connect with the same memetic repository. As I did, like everything I know is completely self-taught for my own voluntary idea. The last time someone taught me something was probably when I was in year one, and my mum was teaching me times tables. Like that was the last time I was ever force fed something. And then everything after that, I've just self taught myself out of my own desire to rock up, be there, listen, and learn, and not be force fed. So that is the same for everyone in the world. And so Accels believe that the only way you should try and progress humanity is campaign. As I'm doing right now, I'm campaigning you guys along this mission to progress. I'm not controlling you to force you. I'm just literally trying to project memes and data and vision to you, so that you walk away from this going, hey, he might have a point. Maybe I should start accelerating, and this is how I can do it. And then boom, you also accelerate other people. So that's how we can spread this kind of optimistic message. And lastly, every problem, both real and imagined, can be solved through just, like I said, optimism and an ability to learn and create things from zero. But you've got to be able to take risks. And we live in this world where it's like almost do not take any risk. And that's why I didn't like the Air Force so much, because everything was just such a controlled risk. Do not take risks. You design it out of there. Just you couldn't even fathom the idea of like walking out and there could be like a non-zero chance of something else. So I mean, every idea now is just against as to that. Like we launched Thorchain in this thing called chaosness. Like, okay, we don't understand all the problems that could hit it, but we're not going to let perfection be the enemy of shipping. We're just literally going to ship the damn thing and just see what happens. And yeah, we could risk the treasury, we could risk everything. We could, we just tell users don't risk too much. But with rewards, that fortune favors the bold, and that's not a throwaway statement. That's actually saying, no, if you actually get out there and have a crack, you're way more likely. The chance of you succeeding is way more likely. Is not zero. It's definitely zero for the person that doesn't get out there and have a crack. So yeah, optimism, a bit of risk taking. Well, risk taking is not like deliberate taking risks. It's that it's looking at the risk in the eye, putting on a decision matrix, and balancing it between likelihood and occurrence. So, like the likelihood of this something happening with the impact of it happening on a matrix means I can tolerate this combined product of those two things. And so you just got to like mitigate it, but you shouldn't run from it.
I think it's a beautiful note. I mean, to not extend the podcast too much. I mean, there's obviously so many things we could double click on, but I think as a general framework, I think it's very nicely put, and there's so many things that I think both Mikhil and I mean, we've talked about a lot of these things. We just use different words, I think. But I think a lot of the core concepts and principles, we kind of align with pretty strongly, including, being closet Bitcoiners ourselves, um, uh, and believing in Bitcoin being the hardest money, and a lot of the principles that you know some of the early contributors of the space, or some of the early builders of the space, believe in.
JP, if there's any final notes from your side, maybe just like anything that you want to say before we end, could be
Sure. Like
anything.
as I tell everyone, just learn, move, create. It's the only thing that's going to be rewarding. Just do not avoid the consumption death spiral. Just get out there, have a crack. Um, if the younger you are, the more you should do this, because at any stage you can convert your time, multiplied by effort, into value. So people think, hey, I'm 23 years old and I've saved up, 50 grand. That's it. I don't want to risk it. Well, it's like, no, don't be silly. Risk it all, because you're just so young. At any stage, you can convert 50 grand into your intelligence and agency. And then that's going to allow you to convert that intelligence agency into something way more valuable. And then that compounds. It's compounded, but it's kind of like exit the linear wealth mindset and jump into the logarithmic mindset. Linear wealth mindset means you just rock up to salary and just like every year you got by 20 grand minus tax, blah, blah, whatever. But you're on a linear wealth mindset. You're just like grinding away at your little financial goal and to buy a house and mortgage yourself up for 40 years. Like that's retarded. Like, and more property's going to go to zero anyway. And so why would you even try and like handcuff you to this property that's going to ultimately go to zero? That's silly. Instead, you should enter the logarithmic mindset. And by the way, if you want to, which is like add a zero every increment. So instead of going 1 to 1.1 to 1.2, you go 1 to 10 to 100 to 1,000. But to jump at the logarithmic mindset, you've got to be prepared to go to 0.1 first. And a lot of people can't do that. So they can't go, oh, I'm putting in 100 grand. I might have to risk it going to 10 grand, 0.1. But if you can't do that, if you can't take some risk and convert your time and effort into value, but skip the value bit and convert into intelligence and agency, you will never jump on the log wealth mindset. And the log wealth mindset allows you to invest in your intelligence agency, invest in your network, and it results in a compounding effect. The more that you're in the arena, the more that you put it back in, the bigger you get, the more people you can connect, the more people you can activate and supercharge in your direction. And it's not about value accrual. At that point, it's not about value accrual. It's actually about activation and progression and a movement towards a vision. And that's far more rewarding than trying to like stack up dollar bills and I don't know, buy houses.
Absolutely. That's a phenomenal note to end the podcast on. Thank you so much, JP, for joining us, and we'll see you again soon, hopefully, talk
Awesome.
about more things.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.